Welcome to a brand new Character Evolution Cast episode, everybody. This episode, we have Daniel Hand with us to talk about how to utilize RPGs with a licensed therapist. We hope you'll give this one a listen because we get into some phenomenal discussion in this episode. But before we get there, here's what you can expect in the call to action after the show.
In our call to action, join us to hear more about our hiatus next month, our normal patron thank yous, and normal episode closer stuff. Super exciting. But also stick around because we banter and it's always good.
Yeah, exactly. Until then, enjoy this episode of Character Evolution Cast that we are both quite proud of.
Welcome to Character Evolution Cast, a show where we discuss what to do with all those characters we just made. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia, and today my co-host Ryan and I are joined by Daniel Hand to discuss how RPGs can be incorporated into therapy, which we all know I'm a big fan of,
Yep.
And have done so much therapy. I'm great at therapy.
You're a professional therapy entrepreneur.
Right, not a professional therapist, a professional
therapy connoisseur? I don't know.
Connoisseur.
I'm a connoisseur of therapy.
Yes.
Yep.
Daniel is a British therapeutic counselor in private practice and has been utilizing RPGs in a therapeutic environment for the past 5 years or so.
Daniel, welcome to Character Evolution Cast. It is really great to have you here with us today.
It is an absolute privilege being here. Just a quick question. Which one's Amelia? Which one's Ryan?
It's really hard to tell.
Really,
I'm
our voices
Ryan.
are so similar. Yep. And I'll be Amelia today. It's fine.
Okay. Hi, I'll be Amelia
I've been a
today.
fan for so long. I love you guys so much. My group is all into characters. A couple of us just create characters because
it's the best part of role-playing games.
Exactly.
TM.
Yeah, and to have you guys have a podcast all about that. I mean,
I was shocked that there weren't more of these out there, that we were not like the first, or that we were the first people doing it.
Because it's, as you say, it's just the best part. I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you. You give me happiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so excited about this because I don't get to talk to other people about mental health and games nearly as much as I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you're optimistic that this conversation is going to go well. I mean, you've met me, right?
You've listened to our show. We do great at this. We can make anybody sound good.
Exactly.
Challenge accepted.
Oh, no.
Well, Daniel, could you start off by telling us a bit about yourself and what sort of things you have going on right now?
I thought you wanted this to be a short podcast. My goodness. So I am one of those infuriating people who, when you say anything, you can say, "Oh yeah, I do that." So yeah, as you've said, I'm a therapist in private practice. That's my bread and butter. So I spend my time looking pensive and saying, "And how do you feel about that?" Yeah.
Why don't you tell me more about your mother?
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have done it before. Wow. But I also I'm an author. I've been a published author for mumble years now. I'm not an old man, honest, but certainly we're in the decades, plural, I'm afraid. Design games, card games, and an RPG system, which I'm here to talk about. And also, obviously do a lot of playing. But yes, the reason I'm here is because I've got this shiny new book out called Roleplaying Games Psychotherapy, a Practitioner's Guide. You should buy it, totally. And so I am currently, prostituting myself to the internet and doing a fantastically bad job at it.
I'm really excited to talk about this, honestly. Like ever since you first reached out mumble months ago, when I was like super on top of my game and great at getting back to people about things. But no, I've been really excited about this from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Everybody's been so lovely. Well, I mean, you guys just, I could just spend the rest of my week just sitting here talking to you. It's just, yeah. So thank you for having me. It really is a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here with us. For everybody that hasn't experienced one of these episodes before we get to the meat of the episode, we always start Character Evolution Cast off by introducing our guests to the audience. So, Daniel, our quintessential question we ask all new guests on the show, basically, how did you end up getting into RPGs?
How did it come to this, Daniel?
Well, again, you're asking questions which really just cannot be summed up too quickly. I actually got into RPGs from the point of view of being an author. The first RPG I ever played was actually a play-by-post writing exercise. We all created our own characters, no stats or anything like that, and just one person wrote a paragraph or two about their character, the next person wrote a paragraph two about their character in response to what that character said, and 5 years later they were still having breakfast because that's how quickly those games move.
Yep.
And that was really my kind of only experience of it for a good long while, several years. And actually the first TTRPG, as we know that I played, was actually The One Ring, which spoiled me. I love it so much.
It's a good game.
I haven't played the second edition yet. We only played the first edition, but nothing else has been quite good enough since those days. And because I'm a huge Tolkien nerd as it is. I mean, you can't see them because they're double layered, but I've got my entire shelf of first edition History of Middle Earth and all that behind there. Just I'm that guy whose favorite Tolkien book is the Silmarillion, But the takeaway from it was, oh my God, this is so much fun. My kid was young then as well, so I didn't have many non-parent activities. So it was just a case of, do you mean I get to pretend that I can kill things? Oh my God, yes. And then, X number of years later, genuinely couldn't tell you how many, I've now got what is essentially a games master's guide coming out that uses the word client instead of player. So so bizarre, but hey, who said life was normal? Yeah.
I love that there are so many people who are parents that are like role-playing games are like my grown-up time. And it's funny because it's like you spend all day like playing pretend with your kids that like, yes, great, like you welcome to the tea party, let's play Paw Patrol for like the 40th time. And then you're like, what would be super fun and relaxing if I went and played different pretend with the other grown-ups around me. They're very different experiences. But
one experience
equally immature, I would say sometimes.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
but at least when you're doing it with the kids, it's age appropriate.
Yeah. But we've got one guy who's recently joined our team who is super took it really seriously to begin with. Now he's just realized he's just got to go with the flow because the madness is happening.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to have to write a book of our RPG experiences, and it'll be called, our GM came up with this, I kick the door open and stab something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is our gaming experience. Yep. It's fantastic.
Stab now, ask questions later.
Or just don't bother with the questions.
Right. Yep. Parentheses, if there's time. That can be what goes after the colon in this book. Is
if there's time. Yeah.
Is everything dead yet? That's the only question we need.
Oh dear, I found my people, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And it sounds like I found even more of them here.
We're everywhere.
Oh, do you promise?
Can you share like a memorable experience from playing RPGs, like something that had a significant impact on you, either personally or professionally, especially since you've written this book for a professional setting too?
We'll probably end up talking about the professional stuff a little later, so I'll stick with the personal one at the moment. It was a One Ring war story, I suppose. We were playing one of the scenarios. I think it was Tales from Wilderland. We were having a big fight in a ring fort. We were having to defend against waves of orcs. And I was playing a woodland elf. I was the upfront fighter. I wasn't doing the whole Legolas shooty thing. I had a spear and I intended to kebab people. But we also had a wood person, who had a dog. That's one of the options you get in the One Ring. And we had a hobbit. And I don't know if you found creating characters, but the best characters I've ever had fun playing either with or as are the ones who are super squishy, but who genuinely believe they're invincible.
I love playing with those kinds of contrasts of the
frontline wizard.
Yes, exactly. Well, no, not even a frontline wizard. A frontline wizard wannabe who everybody has to keep pushing back.
Like who just got accepted to Wizard University.
In my role-playing group, I play with a now 13-year-old. But she plays basically a necromancer wannabe wizard, basically. 14 years old, wants to use a sword on the front lines.
Ouch.
Then the group is like, "You're too squishy, come back." And she's like, "Nope, I'm going.
I got this. I can do it."
And it's fun.
That's exactly so. Like I say, I was this elf. Yes, I had a magic shield. I had a fantastic spear. But I had a couple of bad rounds. It wasn't going quite as swimmingly as it was supposed to. And this hobbit, Banderbrast the Mighty was his name. That gives you a clue as to the kind of character. Saw that it was going wrong. Yelled, "Hell!" Very dramatically. Jumped on the other character's dog and rode the dog into combat.
Amazing!
And then, of course, I had to spend the next few turns getting him away from combat. But it was just one of the most cinematic playing experiences ever. This hobbit jumping on top of a massive dog and charging in like a knight on a horse. It was
amazing.
Doing what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Doing what needs to be done. It was awesome. And this is what I mean about the One Ring kind of spoiled us, because you don't get moments like that very often. D&D is just not built for it.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It's amazing.
So good.
Well, what inspired you then to explore kind of this intersection of RPGs and therapy, and how did that journey unfold for you?
So when you're training to become a therapist, you're constantly being given imaginative tests, creative tests. You've got to do presentations on think of something that would be good to use with your clients. Talk about it. And obviously I'd been an author for a long time. I've been playing games for a long time. And I don't need to tell you two how amazingly therapeutic games are just by existing. You come away feeling better, unless you actively want to come away from them feeling worse, in which case, you're playing Cthulhu and you get what you want.
Yeah.
And so that was an inevitable step, really, just to ponder it. And then I had a young client come along who just couldn't engage with the therapy whatsoever, a young kid, 11 years old. And, it was a case of nothing, quote unquote, normal therapy isn't working. We need to just do something. And play therapy has a long pedigree.
Yeah. For sure.
But, this guy was a bit old for play therapy because, we could have done stuff, but he's like, I'm not playing. That's for kids. So I brought in the D&D Essentials kit. And you'll ask me about important moments professionally again, I'm sure, and I'll tell you about that. But that was just I've told other therapists about it, and they've said, the hairs on the back of their neck started to stand up. It was epically powerful. I mean, it had no right being as amazing as it was. It was just so cool. But doing that, I learned that there was just D&D was not a good fit. And so I had to go and either find another set of rules or write my own. And so I did a bit of both, and ended up, it just became a big part of my practice, really. It just became a thing that I do. And it's just, it's great. It's really effective. B, it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's therapeutic in and of itself. It means that you're not going to spend a week going, oh my God, I've got to go and speak to that creepy old man with the glasses again. Do I have to? He's going to ask me questions about how I'm feeling.
Right. I'm going to have to go in and tell this stranger all about my life and my feelings, and they're going to nod and,
I get to go and kill a dragon. I mean, the way I describe it is, you get to tackle your own demons by swinging a sword at an imaginary one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I've said lots of times on our show that I think role-playing games, that they give us the chance to experience empathy in ways that most of our life does not allow for. And I think, both for the other people that are playing, sort of in the form of our characters, and that chance to be something other than ourselves, to explore feelings in a safe space. I'm sure that we will talk about all of this.
Absolutely.
As we go through it.
But it is just so cool, and that's the word, is cool. It's just cool.
Absolutely.
And
gosh, games are good, huh?
Oh yeah, and I get, the great thing is, because I do all of this for work, I get to take it off my taxes. I get to buy dice and genuinely say, this is for work.
Yeah,
smart.
It's smart, right? Exactly.
That's big brain, right there.
Well, it's not, because I've still got to, pay the money for the dice.
True.
Yeah.
My bank account does not like me very much. It's an abusive relationship, I fully admit that.
That's just called collecting RPGs.
It's hard when the things we love hurt us.
Yeah, but also that's kind of the best.
It's true. So now that we know a little bit more about you, and actually a lot more about you that isn't going to make it into the show.
Oh, you promise.
Those are for our patrons.
Now we're going to do fun, because the rest of that wasn't actually fun. So now we're going to do
leather pants for a reason.
Stuff. I know. So our goal here is to help people become better players. Normally we gear our discussions toward players, not just GMs, because I firmly believe that players can also help make their experience at the table good. So we're gonna change it a little bit this time, though, because we are going to talk about using games in different settings rather than just playing them. So can you give us an overview of how role-playing games can be used as a therapeutic tool?
Absolutely. Probably the distinction to make here and now, though, before we do anything, is that there are two parts to this conversation. You've got playing games and getting therapeutic benefits from playing games, and then you've got going to a therapist who's using the game as a therapeutic tool.
Okay.
The two are very much not the same and must never be mistaken for each other. Do not do not go to your local game store and think, I'm going to therapize my fellow players. I'm going to cure their depression. Great. No, because you will mess them up. You will mess everybody else up at the table, and you will very likely mess yourself up. Just don't.
Don't use your friends as therapy.
Funny that. So, playing the game has so many therapeutic benefits, as we all know, in and of themselves. A lot of us play the game and we come away feeling better. That is therapeutic. Likewise, if you're going to see a therapist and they go, hey, Amelia, I've got a game running this Saturday. Why don't you come and join us? You can meet my mates. That ain't great either. So just tell that guy, just go and find that guy.
Boundaries, my friend. Boundaries.
Yeah,
boundaries.
Professionalism in this economy.
I can't afford to be professional. Do you think I trained? Oh dear. So that's a distinction we need to make here.
So we're talking about using games in a setting that is already a therapeutic setting, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that is it's got two major benefits. The first thing is the engagement. Most of us here have been into some kind of therapy at some point or another. I know I certainly have. And talking about your feelings to a stranger is really hard, really overwhelming. And, why would you do it? Why would you volunteer to talk about feeling bad? And a lot of clients will spend the week between sessions going, oh God, yeah, Friday's coming. I've got to go and sort room again. Oh God, yeah. Oh, gee, and for people who just can't engage with the therapeutic process, an RPG or any other play, just something fun just means, okay, yeah, we're talking about the thing rather than the therapy. The therapy's kind of happening in the background. Mm-hmm. So there's that. But then also you've got all of the actual work that the game itself does. You've got things, I call it the fictional frame. It's turning the therapeutic process into a storytelling environment. You can put things in front of the character that the client is just not in a place to talk about. I was bullied as a child. I don't want to talk about being bullied as a child. I really want to beat up some bullies, for example. But you get so many opportunities for practicing different skills, different feelings. Mm-hmm. If you're neurodivergent, if you have autism or something like that, social cues is a very difficult thing. Here we go. We'll pop you in a social situation. Let's practice talking to people. Let's practice empathizing with people.
Right. And it's something that doesn't have the consequences that it has in the real world. That's like this
magic
safe
word.
Like enclosed environment where if I do something wrong, quote unquote wrong,
yes.
There's not, that's not going to follow me around. When that session ends, it's over.
Yeah, because the vast majority of people who suffer with anxiety, for example, is because if I do something bad will happen. Mm-hmm. So the RPG means that if I do something bad will happen to the character, but 9 times out of 10, nothing bad will happen. Mm-hmm. And therefore, and that's part of the process as well, realizing that, the world hasn't ended, the sky hasn't fallen. I did the thing and I'm okay.
And I think the beauty of role-playing that, and obviously, you're the professional here, but, the beauty of being able to role-play that is that even if you're playing out a situation with your character where, there are consequences to that of, okay, this NPC that I'm talking to or whatever doesn't like me anymore, there's also, the time in character to realize, to kind of contextualize that situation and to sort of experience it and say, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Especially when you're anxious, your thoughts are what is the worst possible scenario?
Catastrophizing, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then you get to do it in this environment and say oh, okay, that actually wasn't anywhere near what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And to be able to carry that forward then and say okay, I've done this and it wasn't a big deal.
Absolutely.
And you can use your character as a role model, Mm-hmm. So one example from practice you asked about earlier, I had one, it's happened a lot of times now, but one of my first experiences using the system, this particular client created a character just super badass, just, just cast spells just by looking at things. I mean, and also tellingly that the first dice she rolled we were using D10s and it was 00, so it was like, oh, that was the first roll of the game, and it was just like, of course, that was like, yeah, that is that character. It was just perfect. And but by the end of the therapy, they become that character. They were their character just by seeing what the character was doing, taking them as an example to learn from. And you could see it happening in front of you. It was, pick your jaw up off the floor. It was amazing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like getting the chance to embody that and, see how good it feels to do that. And yeah.
And it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
We must not forget how important that is, because you don't have to be frightened of your therapist. You can come away and, that moment I mentioned earlier where the Hobbit charged in on a dog, that was hilarious. I remember it years later because it was great. Giving your clients something like that, that's going to stay with them forever.
Yeah.
Certainly much longer than that time they asked me how I was feeling.
100%. It sounds like we have gone over some of the psychological benefits of incorporating RPGs into these sessions. Are there any other benefits that are maybe more nuanced that you've seen?
That really is a question of, well, how long have you got? Right. I've got a book coming out on the topic. I don't know if you've heard.
What? No way.
I know, weird.
That's really convenient. Huh?
I know, right?
I know.
Crazy coincidence.
A little coinky-dink. I did not just say that, and I will deny it to my dying breath, okay?
Didn't hear anything.
I'm so glad. So every client is unique. Every person is unique. I'm definitely unique. Please, God, don't let there be two people like me.
The world
which
can't
means
handle that.
It can barely handle one of us. And so therefore, every therapeutic benefit is going to be nuanced, because what one person gets out of exactly the same intervention is going to be different to what somebody else gets out. But you can really just learn a new way of life. And I think I mentioned just the power of it. And it can be really eye-opening for the client as well, just to see, oh yeah, this is what I want to live like. And it's okay. And, people come to me with depression, with anxiety, drug and alcohol use, sexuality issues, for example, practicing what it's like to be a different gender. Great, let's give it a go. It has so many different uses, different ways it can be used, that everything's nuanced. And as was it Syndrome from The Incredibles is, well, if everybody's special, nobody's
special. Yep.
Yeah.
So everything's nuanced, so therefore I haven't really got time to go into absolutely everything. But there are some caveats, people I wouldn't use it with. I mean, if you're suffering with schizophrenia, for example, you find it difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. I might be hesitant to put you into a decidedly fictional world.
Yeah.
But 99.9% of people, if you were to play an RPG with your therapist, and your therapist knew how to run an RPG, hence the book, you will get something out of it.
Yeah.
It would be very hard not to get something out of it. You would have to be trying not to. And even then you'd fail.
Right. So I guess a question kind of like along those same lines, and this one's not really in our outline, but I guess like what kinds of things do you think playing RPGs do that, sort of traditional talk therapy and like cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff like that? Like what things are RPGs able to get at that you feel like aren't as easy with something like just talk therapy?
there are so many different approaches to therapy. And one of the chapters in the book is actually looking at how individual approaches could use RPGs, differently to others. Probably the big difference between RPG therapy, if we want to call it that, and other types of intervention is using that fictional frame, turning the therapeutic process into a storytelling process. This is about a character in a particular setting overcoming particular obstacles. It's therapy at an arm's length. It's an arm's length intervention. It gives you that level of safety, that level of if something goes wrong, it won't, but if something goes wrong, it's going to land on the character, not me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I imagine having some of that distance between yourself and your character makes it feel less, I'm thinking as a patient, makes it feel less vulnerable and sort of less exposed, I guess, because there's that separation of it's not me. And I feel I would be more comfortable in a lot of cases, sort of exploring the feelings that, because we all put some of ourselves in every character that we make, whether we mean to, even when you make a character that's the complete opposite of yourself, you're doing it as a foil to who you are, right? Yeah. And I think, being able to
come back to that if that's all right. But Ryan, I'd like you want to say something.
It's like in normal sessions with your friends and stuff, there's the option of exploring your character in the third person or the first person, right? And when you go first person, you're generally more in the character. You're at that level of this is me. I am this person now. Whereas if things get a little too intense, you can step back to that third person perspective and get that little bit of distance. And this feels like, you're getting a little bit of distance, but from the stuff that you are in therapy for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was a big buzzword during especially during the pandemic, parasocial relationships. And they were usually, when back in pandemic times, the phrase parasocial relationships tended to be used in relation to celebrities and people on television. But it works just as well with characters. A parasocial relationship is a one-way relationship, a relationship with an entity that just doesn't know you exist. That's our relationship with our characters. And there was a study done very recently. I forget its name. I'll see if I can find it later. That was talking about how parasocial relationships are just as effective with an A, affective, towards the person doing the relating as real relationships.
Interesting.
We feel the feels about these people, even if they don't exist. There's a reason we get all teary-eyed at the end of a rom-com. There's a reason we get happy when something goes right. There's a reason we cheer when John Wick blows the head off somebody. Because they get real emotions into us. These aren't fake emotions that we're being manipulated. Our body is having these emotions. And therapy is all about empathy and using and getting in contact with those emotions. So if we can get in touch with those emotions via these characters, I mean, that's gold dust right there. But also, Amelia, you mentioned how it doesn't matter how hard we try, part of us always end up in a character. And that's what I said earlier, I came into this as from an author's standpoint. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, you will always end up in your character, because how could you not?
Well, I think, everything that you do and make and, all of that is colored by your experience and your understanding of reality, right?
Yeah. We have one frame of reference, all of us. We can have a go at doing something different, but then we're only using our imagination of what something different might be like. So, a lot of clients, I see a lot of clients who had dysfunctional upbringings. They came from parents who had divorced, or one of the parents had died, or something like that. And a lot of them create characters who've got nice homes. It would have been nice to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they don't really know what a nice home looked like. Yeah, in inverted commas. They don't know what that looked like. So what we work with is what they're imagining it looks like. Those of us who grew up with parents who didn't get divorced know that it involved lots of shouting and being told off, to being grounded and all that stuff. But they're imagining the stuff that they missed out on. So we work with that.
Yeah.
And that's why even if you try so hard to play a character who isn't like you, it's like, oh no, there you are. Oh wait, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all we've got to go on.
Right. Yeah, like I said, it's still, even if you try and do the exact opposite, it's still acting in a way that is a foil to yourself. It is still in relation to your own understanding.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yeah, I think there's value in that and knowing that. And I feel like probably as a therapist, it gives you insight into things about people that aren't necessarily things that they would openly share, or things that they even understand about themselves. Again, because you've only experienced what it's like to be you. You've only ever seen the world through your own eyes.
Mm-hmm. And the character creation in and of itself is therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've heard of a podcast that's all about creating characters, something like Creating Character Cast.
Yeah, we should probably check
like
that out sometime.
Yeah,
it's
that sounds really cool.
Yeah, a bloke called Amelia and a lady called Ryan, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda and Brian, I think.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah.
Yep.
Creating characters.
We should do an
cast.
April Fool's episode that is Amanda and Brian.
Oh gosh.
This week we will be destroying characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, so there are just so many different options to ask questions. And actually, part of the difficulty is just deciding what to let go and what to follow up on, because there are only so many minutes in a day.
I'm sure my therapist feels that way about me. It's like, I only have so much time. How do you feel like RPGs have allowed your clients to work through self-expression in self-exploration in ways that you haven't seen otherwise? I'm really curious about those situations where you feel like you're not really getting anywhere and then you sit down to do the games. I'm interested especially in what their reaction is in that situation and how they open up.
Again, there are just everybody reacts differently.
For sure.
And like I say, this one client who made the super badass character turned into the super badass character. Took that character to work, just reacted to people the way the character would react to people, and just chef's kiss, just amazing. But I've also had if people listen to me doing all of these interviews, because I've done a couple by now, I keep using the same example over and over again, but simply because it was just so damn amazing. I had a kid come along who was selectively mute, just too anxious to talk. If he talked, he was just terrified of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just couldn't do it. Poor little guy came along, really tried hard to engage. Just couldn't get above a whispered yes or no. Absolute trooper. Just did everything he could, just couldn't get past it. Created a character, Dragonborn sorcerer. Blue lightning, so it was blue, I think it was. And went into, it described him walking, said, okay, you're walking into a town, there are people talking, etc., etc. And the bloke comes up to you and starts, hi, welcome, stranger. How goes the world? I say, how are you today? And the kid started talking.
How did that feel for you? I'm just curious, in that moment where you just oh my God, I did it.
I was like, yeah.
Oh my God, you did it.
Yeah, it was just, and it wasn't just talking, mind. He was talking in a really gravelly voice because he breathes electricity,
cool.
so he had a sore throat. it was so amazing. I mean, this is a kid who hadn't spoken a full sentence for, I don't know.
Ages.
How, I can't remember how long it is. It's a good long while ago now, but a long time.
Yeah.
But again, this wasn't him talking. It was the character talking. So if there was a problem, it was going to come back on the character. And obviously nothing happened. So, and we kept doing that. And it was just, so that is just going to be with me for forever. Because it was just, and that is something that I've never had in any other form of intervention, because, it's a slow burn most of the time with therapy. But that was just, I'm in a fantasy world now. I can do whatever the hell I want. And that includes talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was because there was a separation from that anxiety of how other people would see him, because it wasn't?
It wasn't him. Yeah. It's, we're not talking, I'm not saying anything. It's the character saying something. And, and I've had similar, things happen since. I had a great, there was a Professor Dungeon Master's Facebook page. Somebody asked a question, what was your favorite spell? And my favorite spell was one a client came up with, where if they successfully cast it, the target just started swearing, cursing.
A curse.
Because a curse.
Curse of curses.
I had never thought of that. I love that. Curse. That is amazing.
Trademark it, Ryan.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Get it. Yeah, get it tattooed. But yeah, and just because, and that was his way of just, can I swear? And because he was a teenager, and that was just pushing boundaries. Can I swear in front of an adult? Am I going to get told off? And like, no, it's hilarious. Do it more often. And because therapy is all about taking risks. That is everything. If you come to therapy and you can't take risks, it doesn't matter how often you come, how long you're going to, how much listening your therapist does, how empathetic they are. If you as a client don't feel able to take the risk of doing the thing that is causing you trouble, like if you're anxious about something, if you can't take the risk of just trying that something, you're not going to be able to witness what the life isn't as bad as you're worried it's going to be. And so, again, making the character take all the risks, that's automatically just a level of pressure relieved. And, and this is why murder hobos exist. We go around killing people because we can't kill people in real life. I have a very thinky job. I spend most of my day looking pensive and saying, okay, how do we get that to work? Right, okay. I don't want to think too hard. I want to say, okay, where are the goblins? Okay, that one's dead and that one's dead. Cool, your turn.
Yep.
And the same applies in therapy. If we can just take off the pressure where you don't have to worry too much about the consequences, just have a good time, enjoy it, the therapy will kind of happen by itself.
Yeah, I imagine that playing role-playing games too, and getting to do some of those kind of things remove a lot of the variables that make things difficult for us in real life too. Is that like in role-playing games, I think a lot of times it's like there's a problem, and there are clear defined ways within the like sort of gamified nature of it. Like these are my options for solving it, and I know what the goal is of this interaction. I know, here's the things in my toolkit to solve it. And I think a lot of times in real life too, those things aren't as clear. Like what is the goal of the interaction and how are people going to react? And there's all of these outside factors that you have to think about and, all that kind of stuff. And I think role-playing games they can be complex if you want them to, but there's definitely the potential that they can simplify things too, where it's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know what my options are for doing it, and I just have to pick one. And then that could I could see that giving you more confidence to be like, oh, okay, I was able to solve this, even if in the real life it's not that simple. But like, I know that there's that I have the capability of doing that now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%. It's amazing. And, if you just dip your toe in the water, then, take that tiny risk and see that the world isn't going to fall down on you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can dip your whole foot in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you tried D&D. You mentioned that, started off trying D&D a little too clunky because, it's D&D.
Yeah. I mean, what more needs to be said? I mean, it took us 2 full sessions to create the character.
Yeah.
Now, we love character creation here, don't we? But they don't pay me to do paperwork.
No.
They pay me to help them.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of paperwork.
There's plenty of paperwork involved, don't get me wrong, but they...
Just kidding. They hire people like me to do the paperwork.
Yeah.
You think I can afford to hire people?
But I mean, are there specific RPGs that you can see working better for this sort of thing? Or on the other hand, what sort of RPGs would be easy to avoid?
Yeah, I also think too, are there certain types of mechanics that are more helpful, or, certain character things that you would look in the kinds of characters you can make in those games that are more well suited or more helpful?
I think simplicity is the key here, and that's where most, I will say, RPGs fall short.
I know, yeah, you're in a limited amount of time. A session is not that long, and obviously the goal is to do the most work and get the most benefit in that time.
Yeah, completely. And most games are complex.
Mm-hmm.
If we create a rule, and if there's an exception to that rule, we need to create another rule for that exception. But also they're geared towards group play.
Yeah.
Which, again, the vast majority of therapists are only trained to work one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
And so a game like D&D, just if you haven't got experience playing role-play games and the confidence to completely homebrew the game to the point where it completely just got nothing to do with the base material,
mm-hmm.
It's just not going to work. And, that the same can be said for the majority of them. PBTA is a good option,
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got, you've got your character, not classes, they're called playbooks.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the playbooks. You just say, okay, I want to play this. Let's choose it. And,
you circle your options, check your boxes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the problem with PBTA is you've got to learn all the moves.
Mm-hmm.
And some games PBTA has gotten more complicated than it needs to be, in my opinion. So you need the one-to-one aspect. You need the simplicity in terms of can we just get the character created so we can get playing?
Mm-hmm.
And then you need the simplicity of the let's keep playing. I made a joke in a newsletter, I think it was, about the grapple rule in D&D. And it's just we could be asking you how you feel, or we could be leafing through the player's handbook. Am I allowed to grapple as an attack of opportunity, for example? It's just bonkers.
Yeah, and the people that you're working with are not necessarily familiar with role-playing games or even the particular game that you're playing, too. So you're trying to teach a game while playing the game. And
Mm-hmm.
While also working on the therapy itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost as if we're trying to do too much at once.
But, no.
There is a wonderful game called Quest. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yep.
Very simple. The character creation, that is lovely.
That's the one that's just fill in the blank kind of I am blank who blank from blank. Yeah.
Blank.
We did that one a while ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But and the book itself of Quest is just adorable. I love the art in it. It's one of my favorite just books just to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So the long-winded answer to that question is the majority of RPGs, for one reason or another, aren't really useful. They're either designed specifically for group play and fall to pieces if you try and get it to one-to-one. They're too complex to get started. I mean, can you imagine doing a Pathfinder character creation in therapeutic?
We're going to play Heroes Unlimited now in this session. You know what? Maybe we can do GURPS. Lord. That's good for anything,
GURPS.
Right?
Oh, yeah, that would, I mean...
Your face right now.
Yeah.
But it would be great if you can grab bits and pieces of, one game and use it in another, which, again... Oh, yeah, I've got a book coming out. And that's actually where the book came from. Look, nothing I've got on in my rather large collection really works in and of itself. Let's just make something up. And then say, this works. Maybe somebody else would find this useful. And yeah, so the character creation in this system takes... I mean, it can take a couple of seconds, but, even pushing it's only going to take 10 minutes or so. The core simple is very much like Quest. You just roll a die. That's it. I mean, or some dice if you don't. It assumes that if you're a therapist, you're not going to have a massive dice selection. So roll what you want. Make some dice. I've got some fantastic homemade dice down here, as a matter of fact. It's a bottle with a marble and some numbers. So you just...
Look at that.
We actually did origami in one of my therapy sessions. At one point, my therapist showed me how to make this cube. So, I feel
so
like
nice. I need to know how to make that. You need to show me.
I don't remember. It was years ago and I only did it once. But I'm looking at, as you're talking, I'm looking at this and I'm we literally made a cube in one of my therapy sessions.
This is mulched up toilet paper.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a couple of Starbucks cups with a hole.
Oh, interesting.
Just so, yeah, I'm assuming that most therapists don't have this.
Yeah.
Big old bag of dice.
Yeah. And, so all of these kind of come together. It's like, okay, we've got a very specific player group here. And, oddly enough, most RPGs aren't written for that particular customer base. So,
not the target audience necessarily.
Funny that, yeah. And the Satanic Panic has a lot to answer for.
Yes.
Therapists are only now realizing that RPGs can be used in therapy. Play therapy has been around forever. Therapeutic roleplay, psychodrama, has been around forever. But the thought of using D&D is just oh no, I'm far too professional to dragons, dungeons.
Right. I will gladly play little board games with my clients. My son plays a board game almost every time, as he's talking to his therapist. They played Scrabble, they played Sorry, they played
But now even schools are having after school D&D extracurricular activities with the teachers as the dungeon masters and stuff like that. It's becoming a lot more prominent in society and a lot more accepted, even in a lot of the pop culture. Role-playing games are becoming more mainstream, more than they ever have been. So it makes sense. It feels like a good time for it to kind of get into this sort of environment as well.
Yeah, and I will actively say, if you're a therapist listening to this, A, bum a book, but B, if you're going to use RPGs, don't use D&D.
No.
It is a terrible option. It's got just everything that, for our purposes, that we needed to do. It
does not do.
Goes in the opposite direction. It's far too complicated. It doesn't allow you. I mean, you cannot ride into combat on somebody else's dog.
No, and it's so heavily focused on that combat stuff and doesn't have a lot of rules for those social interactions.
And the character creation is roll some dice and write down the numbers.
Yeah.
You're not going to let a lot of therapeutic benefit out of that.
No.
Yeah.
Just spoiler alert. But but at the same time, if you've got the will to use them, you can. Colossal beautiful game, so simple. Just, bring that in, use that. Quest. There's an Avatar role-play game.
Yep.
Avatar The Last Airbender. I mean, that's PBTA, and it's just, I get to play as Korra.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Like, there are a number of RPGs that are based on intellectual property and stuff tw that I think sometimes.
There's a Power Rangers game.
Yes,
Did you know that? I found that out the other day.
It.
Oh my God.
I mean, and so I think in a number of those games, the rules aren't necessarily super conducive to, but I also know that like that can sometimes help bridge a gap too of saying like, this is a thing that you're familiar with. Like, let's play around in this world, in a world that you are comfortable with and excited about too.
I mean, you've got Marvel. They've got the
616.
Yeah. And you've got obviously DC, you want to play Spider-Man? Okay, let's play Spider-Man. Let's do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or if you want to branch out, go and play the Spectaculars, just make your own superhero.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the answer to that question, extremely long-winded, is none of them work, but all of them work, apart from D&D. But what I would say is just steer clear of things like Call of Cthulhu.
Maybe not horror games.
Yeah, I mean, don't... I never say never. There will be some people who would get so much out of that. But as a baseline, we're trying not to traumatize our clients.
Don't start there.
I mean, Die, the RPG that's just come out from Roanoke and Deckard, as we mentioned earlier, got so many amazing character classes in there. The Emotion Knight, the Godbinder. These are classes that were tailor-made for therapy, and I'm like, I wish I'd had those ideas first. Because Kieran Gillen, because they are just, I love them so much.
Yeah.
So just grab what you need from a game and use it. Nobody says you have to, so it says on page 2 that I've got to use this game and nothing else. No, it doesn't.
Right.
Right. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, when you do start this, how you incorporate like specific therapeutic goals into what you're doing in the game, because obviously when you go into therapy and, I'm sure as a therapist, you have like specific goals of things that you kind of want to get out of it. And I know that those are fluid and everything. I have to go over mine, I think, every year or something with my therapist, every so many visits. But I'm curious how you kind of tailor what you're doing to meet those specific needs and goals. And I know that it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, and that's just it. I've just come out stock answer. Yeah, I'm afraid it depends.
Yeah.
But also it's going to depend on the therapist's training as well. So I'm integratively trained, and the first year of our training is just learning to say the word integrative. I mostly use person-centered and psychodynamic, but I use lots of other things as well. Transactional analysis, attachment theory, lots of things. But a person-centered therapist would approach it very differently from a CBT, practitioner. It all comes down really to the assessment. You sit down with this person who's contacted you saying, hi, I'd like some therapy. Can we have a chat? Yeah, okay. Sit down, discuss what they want to get out of therapy. 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh yeah, I've seen on your website you do RPG therapy. Could we give that a go? Yeah, of course we could. What would you like to do? And, the simplest way to work towards goals is to ask the client what their goals are.
Right.
And once you've established that, then you can figure out how to go about meeting those needs. So if you've got social anxiety, okay, it's going to be a social game by and large. Or no, it's going to be the social exchanges that are going to be the most helpful. If you have trouble making decisions, you're going to want to have lots of very small decisions to make, walking through a forest and deciding which way around the tree to go.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that would be very different to how a CBT therapist would approach things, because I'm person-centered, I'm fluid. You go, 9 times out of 10, the way I work with things, I let the client lead things. Okay, this is what happens, because that's what person-centered therapists do. But a cognitive behavioral therapist would be a bit more, okay, well, let's identify the situations that really stress you out and explore those stresses and why does that freak you out? Okay, it's not freaking the character out. Why not? Okay, can you practice what the character's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's another one. There are just so many different options that we could be here for the rest of time.
For sure. Yeah.
And I will happily do that, just so you know. But
are there any unique considerations, though, like for a therapist to kind of start going into this? Are there any precautions that need to be taken when using RPGs in this therapeutic context?
Yeah, and that is we've already used the word, which is key, is boundaries. You've got to know what you're doing first and foremost. You're a therapist, and I'm assuming that if you're in a room with clients, then you know how to keep your clients safe. So, but you've got to put boundaries in place, like time, place. But also, this is a game designed specifically to help you. This isn't a game that we're playing down the pub. And knowing what your client's coming to you with, you've got to be careful. If a client is coming with, I don't know, arachnophobia, don't bring in a giant spider and shove it in their face and say, we're playing against this. Don't do that. But again, if you're a therapist, you already know that. So it's just a case of getting the therapy to work according to your particular style, your modality, your training. So that's the main consideration and it's like any session with any client, is this in my client's best interest?
Right.
I've had clients who I'm playing RPGs with come to me and it's like, we are not playing RPGs today because you are not in a state. We're going to talk about that argument you just had with your partner because, the character can wait. We're going to talk about you today.
Yeah.
And likewise, if something comes up in the game, don't just say, okay, no, you're fine, we're carrying on playing. It's like, okay, we're going to pause play here. We're going to talk about, you reacted to that. Let's just talk about what's going on for you there.
Yeah, and that's that's basically the next question we have here too is how do you make sure that it is kind of safe and productive. And I'm also interested when we talk about boundaries, like what you do to kind of end that role-playing session and sort of we've talked about bleed and we've talked about, not here, but we do talk about those kinds of concepts. Bleed
is a big thing. Yeah,
and even just having.
We call it empathy, just by the way.
But do you take time in that, at the end of a session to sort of for lack of a better way of saying it, come back to reality and process some of that or.
Yes, and part of the book is okay, your mileage may vary, but it tends to be a case of sit down, have a chat for 10 minutes, just check in. How's your week been? Yeah, and again, you might decide not to do any role play because life got a bit too real.
Yeah, that's not what's needed right now. Yeah,
no, but have a chat, catch up, then get the client to remind you what happened next week because you're going to have so many adventures on the go. You're not going to remember what happened last week. Then you play. Let's be real. The playtime is not going to be long. You'll be lucky if you get half an hour.
Yeah.
And which is why I'm very much in favor of sandbox play. If you're going to go in a dungeon, 3 rooms is probably your max. Just keep it episodic, keep it short and sweet, and then at the end and you'll keep dropping in and out of the fiction just to talk about stuff Oh, a dragon flew over. How's your character feeling? Oh yeah, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
And stuff. And then at the end, okay, is there anything we can take away from that? I saw you smile when that happened. Yeah, you liked that, didn't you? Yeah. What can we do with that? Yeah, and so you've got to be structured, but you've also got to be malleable, and you've got to just you constantly have. You know what it's like when you're a DM, a GM. You're constantly on the lookout for what to do next. That is a therapist's bread and butter. You've got to, okay, yeah, what do I need to do in these circumstances? 9 times out of 10, the answer to that question is shut up and listen. But it's also going to be a case of, okay, I could ask you to roll a die to get solve this issue. Oh, okay, so do you want to talk to me about what's going on? And because we're talking about very much the RPG as a therapeutic tool. It isn't the therapy in and of itself.
Right. It's a way to get at those things and bring them out. And
and like any other tool, it takes practice, but it's once you get to know how to do it, you can do it with your eyes closed.
Does it take much prep time at all for any of it, or is it a lot of on the fly GMing basically when you're kind of trying to weave the therapy with the actual story that you're trying to tell as well?
Yes and no. I'm as I say, a huge advocate of episodic storytelling, sandbox play. And to begin with, when you're very early in your career doing that, you're going to have to create, because you're going to have clients who want to play superheroes, fantasy wizards, sci-fi, Firefly games and stuff like that, and you're going to have to create bespoke adventures for each client. But eventually you'll get a ward, you'll have an index of games. Okay, I'll just use that scenario. Obviously the therapy is going to be very different, in the same way that no 2 experiences of Curse of Strahd is going to be the same. But it reaches a stage where you can just dip into here's what I made earlier. But if you do it right, you get the client to do most of the creative work anyway. So the core kind of underlying principles I use, and again, I this comes from my time as an author rather than a gamer, is every story needs 3 things. You've got your character, your setting, and your obstacle. That's the holy trinity of storytelling. You take any one of those away and all of a sudden you haven't got a character, you haven't got a story. So you start off just deciding what kind of games you want to play. Okay, you want to play fantasy. Let's create your character. Whilst you're creating the character, you're also creating the setting. You're talking about the character's family, friends. Okay, that's giving you NPCs to use later. Let's talk about where they grew up. Okay, that's you're creating the world. And the obstacle is going to come in the, depending on what the client's brought with them. They want to fight bullies. They want to make friends. That's where your imaginative work as a therapist is going to really come into play.
Which I feel like, again, from my experience as a patient in those situations, is like, I definitely drive my own therapy appointments. My therapist is there to kind of ask the questions to sort of facilitate the direction that we go in and kind of get at the things that, but like every session I go into it and I direct what we're talking about that day. And so I imagine that it is, even in a role-playing game, you're having the client kind of direct, like, what things are you even interested in exploring here?
If you're going into a therapy session and as a patient, as a client, and you're talking about what the therapist wants to talk about, get another therapist. Just life advice there. Because client-led, patient-led, that's what all therapy needs to be. Okay, yeah, the therapist tends to be the one who's got all the theory behind them and knows if you X plus Y equals Z. But no, just the client is the center of the story, and that's where the attention needs to be kept.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. There's no discussion. No discussion.
Absolutely. Well, it feels like we've been getting kind of a sneak peek at everything that's kind of in the book. Is there any like additional key insights or like practical bits of advice that we can expect from the book as readers?
What I would actually like to say, because I imagine the vast majority of your listeners aren't therapists.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that as long as we can trust you not to try and be a therapist,
yes.
There are a couple of chapters in the book specifically about, therapeutic theory. If you just tear those out of the book and don't read them and just promise us you're not going to use any of that information. This book was written specifically for people who have never played an RPG to play an RPG and use it.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so if you are very new to RPGs, or have players who are very new, or if you just want some hints and advice on how to create settings and how to role play and how to, create maps. So, I mean, the book's even got an appendix at the back which shows you how to actually draw. It's a very crude, but how to draw a fantasy map.
Mm-hmm.
Shows you how to draw trees and coastlines. Because a lot of people, when you ask them to do imaginative work, creative work, say, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm not a creative person." It's like, well, of course you can. The way you draw a map is you get a pencil and you draw a wiggly line. Okay, there you go. That's your coastline. There you go. Draw a few lollipops. Yeah, that's a forest.
Mm-hmm.
But people are just. If we're not good at something at school, we assume we're never going to be any good at it. So if we can't draw at school, if we don't become a professional artist, I can't draw pictures, and it's really that level. And if you want to help create your own world, create obstacles, create characters, there is a lot for you in the book, but caveat, for the love of God, do not try and be a therapist to your players.
Yeah.
So,
no, but it sounds like it sort of removes some of the barriers of starting it, essentially. Like, because I think, as a therapist, you could certainly go online and read up like how to draw a map, but it's like, okay, put it all here for you, so there's less that you have to go figure out before you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's got some tips in there how to run a session, and if you get stuck, do this. So that the story trinity I mentioned earlier, the character, setting, and obstacle, that becomes the story cycle. So you describe the setting, you're in a dark wood, then describe the obstacle. You hear a snarling coming off. Oh my goodness, it's a wolf. And then you do the character. What does your character do? Okay, the character does this, and then you describe the setting. Okay, the trees whoosh as we move on to the obstacle. The wolf attacks. What does your character do? That is how you run a session. But if you're stuck, okay, it says it's got a nice diagram that shows you, okay, did we just talk about the obstacle? Okay, it's time to talk about the character. Did we talk about the setting? Okay, it's time to talk about the obstacle. So even if you're not a therapist, there is, in my opinion, a lot for a gamer to get out of it. So, I really would encourage, obviously I'm going to encourage people to buy it, but,
there's stuff for you even if you're not a therapist.
I hope so. Mm-hmm. I really do hope. That was the plan. That was the intention.
Mm-hmm.
So before we start making characters, I just have one more question. Sort of a self-serving question, is if you're listening to this as a player, how would you suggest people approach something like this with their therapist if it is something that you feel interested in, but not something you're doing currently? Because I also know that there aren't necessarily a lot of therapists that put on their website, "Hey, I do RPGs too."
Mm-hmm.
and I like my therapist, but say I wanted to bring something like this up with her and say, is this something that we could try? Do you have suggestions for people on how they might go about doing something like that?
Yeah, completely. I mean, for a start, the reason not many therapists do it is because not many therapists have a clue what an RPG is. It's the same old, I play RPGs. What? I play D&D. Oh.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like my therapist knows a lot about them at this point. But that's only because I've been seeing her for 15 years.
Yeah. And so that's why. And that's, again, why the book is coming through an academic publisher. We want to show, look, this is a book written for professionals to use. I mean, for you and I, it's just a games master's guide that uses the word client instead of player.
Right.
But this is now a tool that professionals can say, oh, okay, I've bought this book and it's going to help me with my work. Mm-hmm. Job done. How to approach it with your therapist? Just ask. Mm-hmm. And especially now that there's a book out there that has role-playing games and psychotherapy in the title. There are already a couple out, but they're completely rubbish. They're just nowhere near as good as mine, obviously.
Right,
But I will say my cover is awesome. It's so much better than anybody else's. It's just the best.
And that's what's important. We all know that you should definitely 100% judge a book by its cover. Uh-huh. I've heard that many times.
No, honestly, I used to work in publishing and
we all
the production
do it.
team.
If anybody who pretends that they do not judge a book by its cover is lying.
Yeah. If a book has a good cover, it's because the publishing house believes it's worth a good cover. If it is a bit bland, a bit naff, if it looks like something your granny could put together on Photoshop, it's because they don't give a damn about the book. It's like, whatever. We've done it. We've done what we're obliged to do. Yeah. Go out into the world so we don't have to listen to you anymore. If it's got a good cover, it's because they think it's going to make money.
There you go.
And it's going to make money because it's good. So, that's tip for the day. But so just go to your therapist and say, look, I've heard this random dude on the internet talking with Amanda and Brian about using RPGs in therapy.
Here's the name of the book. Can you read it before our next session and get back to me?
And if they do, and if they don't want to invest in a book, just show them the quick start rules to Dragonbane or something like that. Mm-hmm. Just. Therapy is all about talking. It's a talking therapy. So talk to your therapist. Don't be afraid to ask, because a lot of people will not have a clue what you're talking about to begin with. And then when you explain it to them, you'll probably see a light bulb go off in their head. Oh my God, we could do that. And then we could do that. And then this would happen. And then, for all the things that we've just said, you can get a boy to start talking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I know my therapist also sees a lot of kids, and I feel like this is something that she, generally would be interested in. Like, she does a lot of play therapy anyway, so maybe I can get her to play with me.
And if they don't want to read a book to get convinced, they could always listen to a certain podcast
got a great
episode.
Podcast for you.
Yeah, with Amanda and Brian. I think that's what it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
Character
cast of creativity or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I'll send you the link when I find it. Yeah,
sounds good.
All right. Can we make characters?
If you would like to make characters, we can make characters.
I would love to.
Let's make some people.
I hear that we do that sometimes on this podcast.
Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Occasionally. It's not all the time, but every so often we like to try it.
Because I've been listening to this podcast for a while and I didn't realize.
Not a single character.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yes. No, absolutely. Let us away.
Okay, so you sent us copies of the character sheets here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to just walk us through the process? Like, if we're sitting in front of you, how do we do it?
Yeah, cool. So just cards on the table. This may or may not be the final design that's in the book. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the proofs yet, but I decide what it looks like. So it will be this. It just might have a different font. I don't know. But yeah, so there are essentially 10 steps to this process, and tends to be very easy if you just go in order from top to bottom. It's not like a Pathfinder character sheet where you've got to go from X to Z to A to Q. You know, it is very much okay. Start at the top, work down. So starts off, hello, my name is, and then there's a little gap for you to put your name down. Sometimes making names is easy, sometimes people struggle, so you don't have to do it first time round, but if you would like to, you can put it there. But before we even get to that stage, we decide, okay, what kind of game do you want to play? We're assuming that we've had the assessment, we've discussed why you want to come to therapy, and we've established that you want to play an RPG. Bear in mind, as a one-to-one, it would tend to stick with a particular genre, but we've got, two people here, and you might want to play two totally different games. The beauty of this system is you can just take those two characters and throw them into a world where both of them exist. So, Ryan, do you have a particular type of character? I mean, we know you've got a particular type of character you want to go to.
What?
Magical and girl, potentially? I don't know. What?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Magical girl's definitely my normal go-to.
Okay, and Amelia, is there something... Sorry, Amanda, is there something you'd be...
I do like necromancers, so...
Do you? Wow, you kept that hidden.
I know, I did. I did. But I feel safe talking to you because you're a therapist. Sharing this with you.
I'm very grateful for your trust. Okay. Okay, but for our purposes, that means we don't need to kind of stretch our imagination to why there is a Gundam pilot in an underwater city, for example.
Right.
Okay. So that implies we're, playing a fantasy universe where magic exists, but also the undead presumably exist, and the barrier between life and death is a bit wibbly in places. Did you have any ideas for names at this stage, or did you want to come back to that later on?
I like to come back to it, personally, because I like my names to sort of reflect something about my character.
Okay. Ryan?
Or we could just name them Amanda and Brian.
You could just name them Amanda and Brian.
That's it. My name is Amanda.
Okay, see,
I already thought of a name before you ever went there.
Okay.
I mean, you could also go with like Brienne, because I know you like to
That's
play
true.
women characters.
True. I could stick with the bit. But
you don't have to.
I won't. Ava Thorne is what I came up with.
Oh, okay. All right.
So there you go. Hello, my name is Ava Thorne and Amanda, and I am a blank space blank. And this is where the kind of the universality of the system comes in, because you can put whatever you want down there. You could be a dragonborn sorcerer, a pale-skinned necromancer, a man without a spine who casts magic, or whatever you want. Or you could just be, I am a little boy. You can be as complex or as fantastical or as mundane as you want it to be. So, given our predilections for necromancers and females of a magical type, Ryan, how would you like to describe your character?
Let's see.
Do you want it to be a magical girl? Do you want it to be a girl who's magical? Would you like it to be a magical boy? Oof, really?
I hyphenate magical girl.
Right. So magical girl is one.
I would say a shy magical girl.
Shy magical girl. There you go.
Yeah.
I went with excitable necromancer, because Amanda just seems like somebody that's
does sound just,
Yeah, I mean, just Amanda the necromancer to begin with just tickles me.
Very good.
And that is awesome. I love that. You need to get a badge. My name is Amanda and I'm a necromancer. Yeah, there you go. Now, for some clients, that would actually be all we'd need to do. We'd just say, okay, right, you're struggling here. You can't sit still. Let's just get playing, because we already know who you are. You're a shy, magical girl, We don't need necessarily to know anything else about you at this stage, just to pick up some dice and say, okay, there's a monster over there. What do you do? Mm-hmm. And likewise, you're a confident necromancer. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out and I'm going to kill things and I'm going to bring them back. But, if we wanted a bit more of a well-rounded character to begin with, you go, okay, hello, my name is X and I am a XX. I am something and something. So I am brave and powerful. I am, brave and scared. It can be absolutely anything you want. I am super tough and have magical gloves. Just whatever you want. It can be as out there as you want, or it can be as human as you want. You've already got the concept. Now we're just kind of going, okay, well, what's special about Amanda and Ava?
So I picked, I am cheerful and unparalleled.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, I love that so much. Yes, you are.
She's incredibly powerful, but also just real peppy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Right, how about Ava?
Ava, I am in over my head and outwardly confident.
Mm-mm.
You see, I am sitting here, and I mean, both of those is just therapeutic gold dust. Mm-hmm. Because, is that a reflection of who you are? Is that a reflection of who you'd like to be? Is that something you feel people should be? We can just, so both Ava and Amanda already have got so much about them just to ask questions, So unparalleled is a really, really special word. Do you mean there's nobody as good as you, or you think there's nobody as good as you? What would happen if somebody who did parallel you come along? How would you react?
Poorly.
Poorly. But, we've done is fill in 3 lines of character sheet here, and already these people are more alive than a D&D. Okay, you've rolled your stats now.
Right, yeah, I know what my constitution is. Okay, yeah. But who are you?
And we're taking a bit longer here because obviously we're going through the process and we're explaining it, but this could be done in minutes, this whole thing. Mm-hmm. So again, some clients are like, okay, we've got that much of a character, let's just get started. But otherwise we move into the relationships. We've got your family, you've got your friends, and you've got your adversaries, or your adversaries, however you pronounce it. I never know. So starting off with your family, what are the special people in these characters' lives? Are Ava's parents still both alive? Are they together? Do they have any siblings? Do they have any children? Are they married? And likewise for Amanda, so do you want to walk us through those, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to say that Ava has, in her normal life, she has parents that are still present. I'm going to say that Ava's a bit older. And out on her own, basically. Single child. Lots of cousins, though. And an extended family that she's always kind of felt not really a part of.
Is that because she's a magical girl and they don't know?
A little bit of both. It feels like she has an easier time keeping things secret because she's not like she's fine with the family. She's on good relations with them, but she doesn't feel a part of them usually.
Is she purposely keeping herself distant so they don't find out? Or is it
I think it's part of the reason why she is because she's shy, right? She doesn't like interacting with them and reaching out herself. to start things.
Asking for help.
But when people reach out to her, she's fine in that regards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because she's outwardly confident, but in over her head.
Exactly.
So clearly she doesn't, like, I feel like the outward confidence would make me think that, like, she's trying to hide being in over her head.
Yeah.
Which would mean you don't want to ask for help, which is wonderfully Midwestern of you.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
I don't want to be a bother.
No, but I am kind of dying inside.
Right, but you know, if you can't get around to it, it's no big deal.
No big deal. But
right,
yeah, no way near mirrors me at all. What are you talking about? I don't
completely not. Yeah.
Amanda's family. It's just her parents, who are two skeletons that she is actually keeping alive and animating. But family dinners are super important to her, so she makes time at least 3 times a week to have family dinners with her skeleton parents.
That is, I am sitting. Your listeners can't see. I'm sitting here,
you're like
bouncing
vibrating
in
your chair right
That's
now.
amazing.
Yeah. So her parents died. I don't really know how they died, but now they're skeletons. And she, she keeps them around and has a very good relationship with her skeleton parents.
And we might find out how they died in a later session.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Play to find out.
And tune in next time.
I really love them. Their names are Susan and Arthur. I just decided that right now.
Of course they are. But look, so there are 3 steps to the relationships. We've done the family there, but I don't know if you're just getting some insight here, but see how much we've got to work with these characters already. Purely in terms of therapeutic benefit, we can talk about how you feel about your family, how important family is to you. Amanda, the way she feels about her parents, is that the way you feel about your parents, Amelia? Just... Mm-hmm. Again, we're not going into therapy here, but it just opens up.
You're learning things about me here.
Yeah, a lot of little strings.
But
or at least questions that you want answers to.
Exactly. They're just possibilities that you can follow. And we're never going to have time to ask all the questions, but, depending on what the client's coming to you with, what their needs are, you can just pick and choose where you go. And you don't have to ask every question. You just have to file it away and move on. And that's just the family, and friends are... I heard a great quote from somebody saying, friends are God's apology for family. So we've done the family, we've done how we feel, super close to dead parents, feeling very distant from an extremely extended family. Mm-hmm. What about friends? How are Ava and Amanda with friends?
Well, Ava has a lot of close friends, a lot of people that she would consider as close friends. And I think Ava has an easy time making friends. But I think she also has a similar, like, I have a hard time reaching out to you to do stuff together. A, because I'm shy, but B, also I live this double life that nobody can know about.
Are you the kind of person, though, that will, like, do anything for their friends, but will not ask your friends for anything?
Pretty much, right? Like,
which, obviously is no way indicative of, like, who you are. It's just a very general question
it's a very Midwestern
reasoning behind it
right?
or anything, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. No, yeah, it's, I'm 100%.
Because I'm not Midwestern, so I can't speak for the Midwestern experience, but a lot of people come to therapy because they are so good at looking after other people and completely terrible at looking after themselves because they just give too much of themselves to other people. Mm-hmm. And so when that happens, it's a case of, okay, we're going to have to figure out ways of looking after you, aren't we? Let's find something fun. Have you tried RPGs? Go try an RPG.
Yeah.
So Ava, lots and lots of friends. Does she have a particularly close friend that she hangs around with, or are they all kind of...
I would say that she's got at least a couple, like, probably an inner circle of friends that are like the go-to friends, and probably 1 or 2 that are like, ride or die. These are the friends that I can tell pretty much everything to except maybe my secret identity.
Okay. Oh, so they're not magical girls as well. It's just her.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh wow.
I think she's like looking for that sort of counterpoint in her world. Like, is there somebody that I can bond with as well as my friends, but also do what I do as a magical girl?
And this is the stage in the process where I'm just sitting here, and my therapist self has to tell my geek self to shut the hell up, because I'm going, yes, but okay. So how did you find her powers? What? Tell me more. I need to know. Come on. You know,
that's her origin story. Come on.
Yeah. Do those friends have any names? I mean, you don't need to come up with them just now. We can come up with them in play. But if they do, something occurs
very nebulous at the beginning. I would probably come up with play during these.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about Amanda's friends? I will say it's super heartbreaking when clients go like, "Yeah, they just don't have any friends." Oh,
yeah.
All my friends are skeletons.
I love this person so much. Don't say that.
I think Amanda doesn't have very many friends because her family is kind of weird. So, like, she can't really easily invite people over for sleepovers and that kind of stuff, you know. And
have you seen my pajamas?
Right. And, like, well, and she just, like, can't really relate to people well because her experience has been very different. I think she has one best friend who is, like, completely the opposite of her. This friend is not the cheerful, peppy type. Like, this person's like very pessimistic and, you know, kind of.
I love it. You've got more the goth pragmatic. Who isn't the necromancer.
Right. But yeah, I was gonna say, I think, you know, like probably dresses in pastels and stuff. Just nice. To, you know, maybe if we all have magic in this world, I don't know. I think that they would have like some kind of like plant magic or something.
Amazing.
Know. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of like a grumpy name for this person. I don't know yet.
I nearly said something and it doesn't matter what I say, I'll get into trouble for it. You guys say it. But
yeah, like some friend, you know, there'll be some listener that's like, that's my name.
It's my name.
Yeah.
I'm not grumpy, so I'm going to be grumpy about it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good kind of goth name to give a really peppy person. I mean, our parents are Susan and Arthur, and her name's Amanda, so maybe this best friend is named Kyle.
That makes sense.
There you go. Kyle. So, Kyle, if you're listening, you're grumpy.
Yeah. That's right. All Kyles are grumpy. Actually, I've never met a grumpy person named Kyle.
No.
But
I have not.
I don't know if I've met anybody called Kyle. Probably have. Okay, so those are the positive relationships, or at least the hope to be positive relationships. About negative, are there any adversarial people in these two characters' lives? People who, you know, school bullies, you know, somebody who thinks they're as paralleled, but, you know, really aren't. You know, somebody who knows Ava's secret identity is trying to use it. You know, what? Is there just somebody out there who is out to cause? It doesn't have to be trouble. It doesn't have to be a supervillain. We just don't like them very much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I whispered that. We just don't like them very much. Ryan?
I'm going to say, her boss.
Mm.
Her boss, like, or at least somebody higher up the chain where she works. Maybe not her direct boss, maybe her boss's boss, or, you know, somewhere higher up. They're just.
What's her job?
That's a good question. It's got to be something menial. Something that's like maybe something clerical or something like that. Something that like she just goes and does, and she gets through things, and it's like very much like manual entry work or something like that, right?
Okay, so mine was not a clerical idea, but I was thinking like something menial that you're just like, ugh, I do it because I need money. But I think
I have this thing called food that I need to buy.
be the person at a store whose job it is to rehang all of the things that people try on in the changing rooms and don't buy.
That would be that. I mean, I did that job once.
Yeah. Okay. That harkens back to my retail days. So yeah.
I've actually never worked retail, but it just seems really tedious.
It's very tedious. Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's go with that. She works works retail at a store, and like the district manager is just a butt.
There you go, butt boss. And how about Amanda? Is there anybody out there who just grinds her gears?
I think there's like a teacher or some kind of authority figure that's extremely judgmental about necromancy, and is like, to the point of like being kind of like prejudiced about it, that it just really but has their facts all wrong about why.
Do you mean prejudiced people don't know what they're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that very Republican, I would say. Be Republican if necromancy was a problem.
Oh.
If it were a cultural concern, let's say.
Got to defend the borders.
Right. We can't have all these dead people coming in here stealing our jobs.
Yeah. I went to work the other day and I saw 2 zombies, and do you know what they were doing? They were standing there.
Looking suspicious. They're up to something.
Yeah. Okay, and again, therapeutic possibilities. Okay, so because 9 times out of 10, a client's going to put something there that they think is a butthole, so, a prejudiced person. Okay, what is it you find to be unpleasant about prejudicial people? I mean, I think we know the answer to that question, but it would be a good line of just to follow through as play comes along.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you as a person that people judging me is a huge concern for me.
Yeah.
And Ryan really wishes that he could have a job that he's passionate about. Not that you don't, you're not okay with your job, but you do wish that podcasting paid you full time.
Oh, 100%. 1,000,000%, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is that side of the character creation done. We've got relationships there, and whilst we're doing this, I'm sitting back going, okay, what's the world going to be like? Okay, so we know we've got magic users, we've got retail, so it's got to be, we've got at least some kind of modern society. But where does Amanda live? Is she part of the modern society? Is she living in the forest with all the beasts? And that would be part of the carrying on. I'd be saying, okay, where's Amanda living in all of this? Let's ask that question now. Where is Amanda in all of this?
I mean, I feel like, Ava and Amanda probably are in maybe we're in different countries in the same kind of world where I would like to be in a country where magic is just culturally normal, unless it's necromancy, in which case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe you are in that world too, and just your power is being a magical girl and you hide it. Maybe not everybody's magical. I don't know.
I like that there might be there's magic all around, right? But it feels like for Ava, her magic is different because she only has access
fully transforms you.
Once she transforms, it's more superheroics,
isn't it? Yeah.
More superheroics than just pure pulling on the magic. So maybe she's inadvertently weaving all the different types of magic into doing what she's doing. And
so do you think in your mundane life you still are slightly magical because everybody's a little bit magical, but then it's being truly powerful with that maybe isn't necessarily the norm?
Yeah, I think it takes her to another level entirely. I think her magical girl persona feels akin to Superman in a world of supers, right?
Yeah. Amanda is unparalleled. Ava maybe is the parallel.
No.
In a different way.
I'm unparalleled.
Not for necromancy, at least.
But, see what I mean? Already that's like, oh, God, that is dynamite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interparty conflict, which I know you're a fan of.
Big fan.
So the next few steps are hopes, fears, and I use the word mannerisms. Hopefully they're fairly self-explanatory. So the hope is, so what does Ava hope for in life? From the sounds of it, I could potentially guess. But if I guess, that would be me putting words into the client's mouth. So it's, again, very much the therapist saying, geek, be quiet and listen.
It's funny because, Amelia, basically pegged it right off the bat after I had already written it down to feel confident enough as a magical girl to do it full time. Yeah,
I know stuff about you.
I know, right?
Do you mean you met each other and actually, developed a relationship already? Do you mean
only after we started a podcast?
That's true.
I'm the newbie here. Is that what we're saying? I feel like the odd one out. And I do tend to limit it to just kind of one hope and one fear to begin with. We can add more later, but we don't want it to get too complicated. And so Amanda's hopes or hope?
I think Amanda wants to learn what to do with this power that she has. She's got a lot of power, but aside from reanimating her parents, she's not really sure what to do with it. What it's for.
She gets bored.
And it's a thing that she knows that she's good at and likes doing, but can't figure out what to do with that or how to use that.
Mm-hmm. And that obviously comes in with the prejudicial side of things. Well, there's nothing good that can come of it, obviously, but I really want to do good with it.
And I, the people being okay, but why would you even want to do that? What's the point?
Yeah. And fears. And when I say fear, I don't necessarily mean what are you afraid of.
Yeah.
It could be spiders. It could be snakes. Both very reasonable things to be afraid of. But it could be my secret identity gets found out. Or I don't know, pee my pants in public or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Ava's fear is I won't ever find anyone to share in my magical girl shenanigans.
Aww.
You see, empathy right there. My heart broke slightly hearing you say that.
She's very alone when she's a magical girl.
I know, and I can feel that. That is just, I would be following up about your levels of aloneness, and I'm really trying not to do the thing here.
We don't play the games here. That's not how that
works. Indeed. But again, hopefully just by going through this already, you can see, and your listeners can see, the sheer number of opportunities for therapeutic intervention already.
100%.
And what's Amanda's fear?
I think her fear is kind of twofold. It's that that there's not room in her life or in the world for her to ever truly explore her powers and find the limits of them. She knows she has a lot of powers, but she doesn't there's not enough acceptance or understanding or any of that to truly get to know that part of her or find out how it all works. But then on the other side, she has this concern that she can't control it. What if, partly because she doesn't get the chance to play around with it and figure it out, what if she can't control it at some point?
And that is really scary. That's
I don't have any control issues. It's no big deal.
No, but name me a teenager who isn't worried that they're going to do something wrong once they get with the authority, with the responsibilities they're given. And then we'd move on to, like I say, I call them mannerisms, but it could be distinctive features. I have a scar down my face, or I'm a magical girl, so you could talk about what's her transformation like. What does she have a magic wand, a gizmo or something that she needs to transform, or does she have a costume? Just something that, and I often ask for little catchphrases, something that, just a good roleplay opportunity, just something that they often say. If it's a swear word, they say that, like bloody Nora or something like that. Just put that down, and make sure that you say that every now and again. So just something to help with the roleplay. Yeah, that's what this particular part is for.
Interesting. I think if we were going to dive fully into that, I would probably flesh out a full phrase of transformation, and I would come up with the transformation sequence on the fly when that first sequence happened in game, that sort of stuff. But one thing I do know about Ava is she always lights up emotionally when she transforms as a magical girl. She's beaming. It feels so good.
She's being herself.
Yeah, she's being herself. But she's lacking that confidence of being herself, right? So she's faking it till she makes it. That's what she keeps telling herself.
I love these people. I just love them so much. I love them. And Amanda, is there anything she does on a regular? Does she have an annoying just habit? I've got a scar. Do I stroke my scar whilst I'm thinking, for example?
I think
only got one ear.
No, I think she is cheerful, kind of bubbly, but it's in some cases it's kind of surface level, and then even when she has to talk about problems, it's sure, I'll tell you a little bit, but I don't want people to know all of it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Whatever. It's fine.
Cool. Mm-hmm. And that's
gonna be her catchphrase. It's probably fine.
It's fine. Whatever.
No big deal.
It's probably fine. I like that.
It's probably fine.
And in terms of kind of personalities, that's pretty much everything we've got right there. And again, we would be perfectly okay to just jump in play and see where the action takes us. This is kind of the part where I would start talking about the mechanics of the game. So this is, as we've mentioned, an extremely simple system. You roll your die, and whatever number comes up, that's the results, and the higher you roll, the better. We're assuming that not every therapist has a bag of dice, so the dice you use might be different. One person might use a D20, one person might use 2D6, one person might use 1D6, whatever. You might get the Dungeon Crawl Classics dice and get D24 or something like that, which why wouldn't you if you have the opportunity?
Open a box of the other board games you have in your office and pull out whatever's in there. It's actually Pop-O-Matic Trouble. It's the one where you push the little thing down and the dice.
See, over here that's called frustration. Because it is extremely frustrating because you never roll a 6 when you need it. So you do that, and then you add for certain moves, some signature moves, which is why it's got signatures on the character sheet. You will add a modifier, and and there's space for 3 individual things, and these are just abilities that we can do pretty much anything in the game that as long as it fits the fiction. But these are things that the characters are especially good at. They're just well practiced, so they could be a proficient shot with a rifle or something like that, or particularly good at flying spacecraft. And these can be individual spells, for example. They can be individual weapon uses. I've got a client who is playing a cowboy, and one of their special abilities is he whistles and his horse comes up to him. Just little things, just A, to help with the role play, but B, just you're good, but these are things that you're even better at. And again, they can be pretty much anything that you feel goes with your character. So for Ava, these might be special attacks. They might be special abilities. They might be, or because she's very good at her job, she's very good at rehanging old clothes, for example. You know, and if you were to put that down as a signature ability, obviously that's you telling me that you want to have a look at rehanging old clothes. I mean, I'd then have many questions about why you want to rehang clothes, but you know, it can be as broad as you like it to be, much as everything else in this particular process. And again, we could start off with just doing one. We could do all three. It depends on how confident you and the client or player is. So do you have anything that Ava is particularly proficient at, or Amanda, whoever comes first?
I have two so far. The first one is infuse life, because I think partly because she is so cheerful, that's how she likes to frame what she's doing. It's like, it's not like raising the dead people. I'm just like infusing life into things.
That is my new favorite phrase in existence.
So, I mean, essentially that's her, ability to raise the dead and reanimate things, but she likes to think of it as infusing life.
Indeed.
And then her other one is she's actually a really good cook, because her family dinners are so important to her, but also because her parents are dead. They don't really care so much about the food. So she's gotten really good at like cooking nice meals. And I got to think of a third one maybe, but
what about Ava?
Ava's very good at magical girl combat. Very good at defending the innocent. And very good at making friends.
Okay. Simple as. Okay.
Yeah.
No follow-up questions. They are all amazing. And did you want to come up with another one for Amanda? Shall we?
I feel like Amanda is actually really good at small talk. Like great at like surface level conversations.
That's so good.
And again, none of this is written in stone. If we would start playing and you decided that you didn't want to play a magical girl who's good at defending people, you want it to be all attack, change that. If we figure out actually the family dynamic isn't what we put it down here, change it. That's the beauty of it, is just go back and change it.
Absolutely.
Who's going to tell you off for it? And next to the signature abilities, it's got a space for levels, and that is where the modifier comes in. And when you start off at the beginning, you level one of the abilities, level 3, one at level 2, and one level 1. It can be whichever one you want. But basically that means that you roll your die and you add that particular number. And as you play, the character will grow in proficiency. You can go level 3 to level 4 to level 5. But just as we're starting out, we're looking for them not to be massively overpowered. We're somebody at kind of the start of the story, not the end. But you're a cut above. Yeah. Joy blogs.
So I put my infused life. I picked 3, 2 for small talk, and then 1 for cooking.
Nice. I went magical girl combat 3, making friends 2, and defending the innocent 1.
And then, that is kind of everything we know about the kind of game you want to play. You want combat, but you also want small talk. You want cooking, so at some point I would make sure that you ended up in a restaurant where after a magical fight, all the staff are run off, and so Amanda needs to do some cooking, because, you've got to have some decent food whilst you're meeting people.
Yep.
Got to make some friends.
Oh, I love them.
I
love our sweet little flawed people.
I know.
They're so cute.
And the rest of it is it's admin. So you've got a place for hit points. You start off with 10, and if you and your therapist want to, you can increase as time goes on. But you just start off with 10 out of 10. And, if you get hit, you lose hit points, you can heal, you can gain more, but you can't ever go above the max. And if you get knocked down to 0, depending on the kind of game you're playing, maybe you get knocked out, maybe you just magically appear somewhere else, maybe somebody comes in and saves you, or maybe you do die. I don't know.
Maybe somebody
that would be
just
something.
infuses life back into you.
Yes.
Somebody infuses life back into you. But that would be because obviously the topic of death between you and me could be a bit of a trigger for some people. So this would be very particular for each and every client. You know, some clients would be like, yeah, I don't care, kill them so I can make somebody else. Others would be like, no. So just be careful.
Yeah, and if we were like doing paired therapy with these characters, I think that would be like a storyline we could like, I die, you bring me back. Like,
how does that work? What does that do for the relationship?
Yeah.
And don't forget, because especially with group therapy, so we're looking at the relationship between the characters. We're looking at the relationships between you and your characters. You're looking at the relationships between you and each other's characters. And you're looking at the relationship between me and the characters. And on top of all that, the relationship between the three of us.
Yeah.
It's just...
That is a lot of layers. My goodness.
And the next part is luck. You get 2 luck points. I mean, I give it every session, because we all have times where the dice just hate us. Doesn't matter how well we do, how hard we try, how great we role play. The dice wake up in a bad mood and they're going to make sure we know about it. And so the luck points can be, again, whatever you want them to be. It could be maybe you get a re-roll, maybe it's advantage, maybe you just say that whatever you want to happen happens. Again, depends on the game you're playing, the client's needs, wants, etc. But you might decide to give them more than 2. But 2 a session is usually more than enough.
Yeah.
And then you've got items, and these, I tend to think, well, you want to give them something that's fighty, something that's healy, and something that's just cool. But, if you're not fighting, you don't need anything to fight with. It can, and you'll pick up more stuff as the game goes by. If you're a warrior, you'll likely want to have a spear and a shield. If you're a cowboy, you're going to want a horse and a revolver and a hat. Off the top of your heads, is there anything that Ava and Amanda really need just to get started? Obviously, this comes in where we think, what's Ava's transformation? Does she have a gizmo?
Ava's got, when she transforms, she's got a magical shield and sword that she pulls out of thin air, basically. Like part of her transformation
I really wanted it to be a hanger that transforms into her wand.
That very well might be.
That's where her costume comes from.
Yeah. Or like one of those security tags.
Yes.
Yeah. So, she's got this costume changing device, but I think, it either changes into her sword or into a sword and shield or something like that. But I think the shield kind of materializes like out of her forearm, like it creates this like barrier, and then the sword she kind of pulls out of like this pocket space out of her. And that's kind of like the end of her transformation sequence. That and then that's her primary like attack and defense, but it's like she can extend it with her magic to like shield more than herself. She can, do ranged attacks with beams from her sword, for instance, things like that.
Just got this idea of a sword that goes for just 2 miles and just whacking around over there. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the filler episode, most of it is a transformation sequence, but it just continues showing the sword.
Yeah.
What about Amanda's items, her accoutrement?
Yeah, so Amanda has a spell kit with some materials. It's got, bone dust and various vials of things.
Best not to ask what they are. You best
Mm-hmm.
not know.
I imagine, though, that it's like in kind of a cute pouch thing. Like, I think most of the time she wears black, but I think her spell materials are in, so a cute little purse of some kind. Like little bottles that look like they're filled with glitter, but it's not glitter.
I love these people so much. I do. I love them.
She also has a spice kit with measuring spoons.
Of course she does.
Because she's particular. She wants like the kind of nice ones, not just like the grocery store dried onions or whatever. She goes to Penzies. I don't think you have Penzies.
You need the oregano. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. You got the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think she has some kind of really cool headpiece. I don't know if it's like a crown or a cool headband or something like that, but it's some kind of
bones.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Bones and obsidian. I don't know.
Amazing.
Oh.
Really dark rubies.
Yes.
Garnet. That's the word. Garnet.
Steven Universe is just the best thing in existence.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay.
And officially, that's the end of the character sheets. But if there's anything else you want to add to either of the characters, if there's something very big that's occurred to you about their backstories, their origin tales, are there any more friends and family that's occurred to you? I mean, but again, all of this can be added whilst we're playing.
Yeah, this is a really interesting process because it's system agnostic, right? It's just.
Well, it is its own system,
really. But which feels very like, do what you need to do to tell the story that you want to tell. It's very fluid and flexible. And I know a ton about this character and I can see a ton of myself in this character, just off the bat. And I can tell if I played this in a session with a licensed therapist that is doing this sort of stuff, I could probably get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think aside from being bubbly and cheerful, I might have made...
Yeah.
But the thing is, I love these characters so much. I know.
Like, what sweet kid? I love that.
Yeah, and that's the case of, okay, well, if we can love these characters so much and there's so much of you in these characters, then it follows logically that there's plenty
maybe
of
I
you
can
that
love
can be
myself
loved.
too.
Yeah, possibly, maybe.
I really want to learn more about Susan and Arthur, honestly.
So do I. I just want to know what happens whilst they're eating. Do they actually eat? Do they just watch? Do they just
I like the thought of a little Roomba style necromantic device that cleans up the floor as they eat.
Just
because it just goes in and falls down to the floor.
I think that they probably don't eat a lot of dinner, but she does insist that they drink a couple glasses of milk every day to make sure that they're getting
get those bones.
Yeah, some calcium, some vitamin D.
And it would be, again, most of this is designed for one-on-one work, but having both of these characters together, the number of story opportunities that we've just come up with purely through this process, just these characters would be amazing together, but there would be some friction to begin with. And I'm like, oh God, can we play this now, please?
Welcome to how we feel after every single episode.
I can imagine.
We hurt ourselves. And I don't think that we fully thought that through.
And and again, that took a lot longer than it would normally.
Well, right, because we did a lot of talking about why we do those things and what we get out of it, and partly I assume because we're not going to be playing the game, we filled in a lot of those blanks that we probably wouldn't have.
Exactly. But that is really as complex as it goes. As I say, I came into this very much from a writer's point of view, from the story, and the mechanics support the storytelling. Rather, like I say, the fictional frame, we've got the therapeutic frame, we've got the fictional frame. That's where you need to focus your work. The dice are great, but actually one of the stipulations I gave to the publisher was I do not want dice on the cover of my RPG book because I love dice. I may or may not be addicted to buying dice. I really am. I'm not. No,
you should
I'm
see
not
someone
addicted.
about that.
Yeah, I can stop anytime I want. I just don't want to just yet.
Right.
That's not.
I mean,
that's
and
not
that's-
an addiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But and this is going to be sacrilege. I know this, but the dice are actually the least important part of the game, and this is why I just said, right, look, I know a lot of people think of dice, but that's when they talk about RPGs, but that is not what we need here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the adventure, it's the story, it's the sheer badassery of these characters.
Yeah.
And if there's one word to describe these two characters, it's badass.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean,
We are killing it.
they could do anything.
And bringing it back to life, to be clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kill it too, bring it back to life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why else would you kill something? Obviously. You know?
Amanda can't imagine a reason
No.
why you would do that.
Oh, this was so good, though.
Yes, I loved this. And this was such a good discussion. I'm so glad that we managed to work all of this
100%.
out and have you on. This was great. This was great.
And has this, I mean, this isn't my natural habitat. I don't know if you can tell. So, I mean, how have I done? This is my insecurity coming
right.
out
Oh,
here.
you did great.
You're doing
Absolutely
great.
fantastic.
You're doing
Yeah.
great. Mhm. I always tell people that that's a great thing about going to therapy is that you have 50 minutes where somebody is like, no, you got this. I believe in you.
Yeah.
I think everybody could use that in their life.
Yeah, especially in this day and age, you know, because people say, "Oh, but this is a first world problem. Other people don't have that." Yeah, but the reason it's a first world problem is because we live in a world now where our biggest social interaction is with a screen. You know, and we need relationships. That's what this entire character sheet is about: is looking at the relationships. You know, we go to work environments that specifically rob us of the things that we biologically need. And because of that, we feel like crap.
Well, yeah, when your self-worth is measured in productivity, it doesn't do great things for your self-esteem.
Funny that.
Weird,
Especially
right?
when you're burned out
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, well,
that's right.
how do you get burned out? Oh, I don't know.
How can you even be
Yeah.
burned out when you're not productive enough? It seems ridiculous.
And that's my biggest job, is just telling people, look, feel about yourselves the way we feel about Ava and Amanda, because they are awesome.
They got this.
And you're awesome.
They're going to do great.
They got this. They're going to do great. It's fine.
They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it, and they will. And that's what part of the game experience is, actually seeing, they will figure it out. They will be okay. You know, oh, wow. So we've met, Amanda's met people who aren't prejudiced towards her. Ava's found a friend who she can tell her secrets to, you know, and there isn't a crack forming in the sky. You know, that you can do these things. And again, taking risks. You know, you're not going to achieve this. You know, the last thing you want to do is, okay, roll a die to feel better. Yeah, that ain't going to work. So if you make your characters take the risks, that's you taking risks secondhand.
Yeah.
And it's
so
magic. It's so much fun. I mean, we've had the feels today just talking about these two.
Yes.
And you can easily have the feels.
I love them so much. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited that we got the chance to talk about this, because I think it's probably helpful for our listeners, even when they aren't therapists, but just to get a chance to talk about, you know, how we can fit that into our care too, and maybe bring it up with our own therapists.
Yeah, do. And that's kind of the point of the book, is I want to get it out there to people, just to make it a normal thing. Because the geeks among us know already that RPGs are great, you know. And so, go to your therapist, go and say, look, how about we try this? You know, if they're any good at their job, they will look at you and go, oh, I've never heard of that. Let me just check up.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, and I'm sure it's probably true for a lot of people, is that like, I know that my therapist does play therapy with some of her clients. I know that a lot of the therapists in that practice do, and it's just another form. You just have to reach out and be like, what about this kind of game?
I mean, they might decide that it's not for them. They're like, yeah, I just don't feel I would be able to help you appropriately with. I just don't think I haven't got it in me to.
Yeah, I'm not the right person for that. Yeah,
no.
But
and that is
maybe
fine.
They'll suggest it to other people that they know. Yeah.
But just go and ask, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Right. And I'm glad that this is something that's out in the world, because I do think a lot of people can and will benefit from something like this. So I'm excited about it.
I genuinely hope so. If one person is helped, I know it's a cliche to say, but if this helps one person, then it's done its job. And as I say, if we can trust your listeners not to go into it and try and therapize their players, there is a lot in the book that you can get out of it, like map drawing, like the story cycle, like episodic play.
I think that's hugely helpful to people that, especially people like me that are not great at running games.
Even this character exercise, like doing this small little thing to create an idea of a character you want to play in the game you're going to be playing would be fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like the character creation with my therapist, even if we don't do anything with it, is a really good way to like talk, even if you don't role play with rules, but to be able to like talk about things in the context of, okay, like what would Amanda do here?
And I can't believe that we haven't said this already. I can't believe I haven't said this already. That is actually something I say quite often. Well, what would your character do? So what would Amanda do in this situation? Okay, so your boss came. You come to a session. Oh God, my bleeping boss was on my case yesterday. Okay, yeah. What would Ava feel in that situation? What would she do? Okay, how would she feel about it? And how would she deal with these feelings? I'm not suggesting that you have it in you to get a sword out and destroy a building with it. Maybe we can maybe get some kind of self-care involved, and we can follow her lead. Yeah. Well, and it's, one of those like, well, Ava would work to find a resolution and not necessarily just sit and let it happen. And so, even if their solution to it wouldn't be the same, just the idea that they wouldn't let it go is a start. Yeah. And like I say, I've had clients who it's amazing to watch, who are becoming their character week after week. Yeah. And it is just, kind of bouncing on your seat. It is. It's epic.
I mean, I watch it like even as we were making our characters. I can't imagine what it's like when somebody's like making that kind of progress. Yeah. Like cheer them on.
And again, I cannot overestimate the fun aspect, because I do a lot of work with the inner child. I'm very much a case of we've all still got the child in us that we once were. They had bad experiences and they're still hurting from those bad experiences. Some of them just want to play a game. Let's play. Let the kid out. Just be silly. Like I said, let's create a spell. That was one of the that was their level 3 signature ability, a spell that makes people swear.
Yep.
That's amazing.
That's just be fun. Just be fun. Let your clients have a good time, and the therapy will do itself.
Can you let everybody know like where they could find you if they wanted to reach out about this book or know a little bit more or find out other things that you're doing?
Absolutely. So my website is www.monomythcounselling.co.uk. Monomyth as in the hero's journey. hence, I came in from writing, counselling with 2 L's, as I'm British, and we spell things properly over here. Or I don't know who spells it properly. Or right, it's got 2 L's, so if you want to reach it, type that. I've got information just about RPG therapy in general. I've got information about, I've had lots of short stories published. You can read some of them. It's got links to different podcasts like this one. It's got a form to contact me if you want to have a chat, either as a therapist or if you are a therapist and you want some training, you can get in touch. Or you can sign up to my monthly-ish newsletter, which looks at therapy, RPGs and therapy, and all the good stuff. I review games. And I'm on Facebook, and I'm thinking of doing a YouTube channel, but let's just baby steps.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And if you sign up for the newsletter, I haven't done it yet, but I'm thinking I might write an introductory adventure to go with the book, but I'm waiting to see the proofs of the book so I can format it correctly. So sign up, you'll get that free, hopefully. I reserve the right to completely
decide it doesn't work. Yep.
But that's the plan, and hopefully I'll have some merch. I want to do like a pad of character sheets, for example, so that you don't have to print them off every time you've got a new client. But that's, again, let's one thing at a time. Let's just get the book out
focus
first.
on getting the first thing done, and then
absolutely.
But hopefully, if anything has come from this conversation, I'm a fairly approachable guy. If you need help, I am around, and that's as clients, as fellow practitioners, just reach out. What's the worst that can happen?
There you go. Again, thank you so much for joining us for this special Character Evolution Cast episode. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to check out Daniel's book, Role-Playing Games in Psychotherapy, A Practitioner's Guide, coming out mid-July. There will be a link to that in the show notes. And we'll see you next time, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that. I'm really glad that we got a chance to do this episode. Daniel had reached out to us like forever ago when we weren't doing Evolution Cast yet. And it was one of those that like, this is a really good idea for this, but like, we're not making that content right now. And so I'm really glad that we managed to work it all out and that he was patient enough with my very slow replies to his email every like month or two, being like, hey, sorry, I fell off the map. My brain is broken. And then him being like, yes, I do know that brains do that sometimes.
Yep.
So, thanks for being an understanding therapist, Daniel.
Exactly.
No, I really loved this episode. I told him when he first reached out too that like this is something that I personally obviously am very passionate about.
Yes.
It's a thing that I love about RPGs. It's a thing that I really think we could talk more about. And I'm really glad that we got a chance to do it with a professional too, that it's not just, I'm very qualified to talk about mental health from the patient side of things. But it is really cool to hear from a clinician about how it all works and what they see as the options for people. And I'm really excited because I really do think I'm going to bring it up with my therapist next week and see what she says. I'm kind of
well. Yeah, because like the character creation that we did here, like I
love our characters. I love them so much.
I do too. Like it was cathartic, even just that prior to the process. And I'm like, this is good. This is really good.
It's
and like I was like, all right, I'm not holding back. This is what I would do in therapy.
right. Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
And we didn't make ourselves at all, though. I don't think that like our characters reflect us in any way, shape, or form.
Not even remotely. Yeah, it was weird how that worked out. Like,
it was crazy how different they are from us, you know. Amanda. Yeah, I'll have to put these ones up on our on the Patreon too. We've been releasing the character sheets for our regular series, but we'll have to put these ones up there too.
Yeah, I agree. It was such a good time. I loved recording with Daniel. He was an absolute delight. And goodness, we probably could have talked for hours longer if we wanted to.
We probably could have, and certainly would have if we didn't have other stuff going and a 6-hour time difference, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was such a good discussion. It was. I'm so glad we got to do it. It was
100%.
Yeah.
Well,
it was great. It was so great.
It was great. It was
really great.
Oh, I know.
I loved it.
But before we let you go for the month and get into some stuff next month, here are our calls to action.
First up, July is right around the corner. The end of June is going to be a very busy time for both of us, and we needed a bit of a break. I'm getting ready to go see Taylor Swift. It's extremely important. I have another ECT treatment. For both of us, our kids have gotten off school for the summer, and so we're all reacquainting to new schedules and things. Just a lot going on. So we kind of need a bit of a break. It was just a scheduling nightmare. So we are still going to be doing our chit chats and bonus episodes for Patreon. And we will be re-releasing some choice episodes during the month with new cold opens and calls to actions. They'll have a fancy new intro and outro on them. And they will run in the place, though, of our normal series episodes. We won't be putting out a new series for July. But we will be putting out a new character evolution cast at the end of the month. So you can still look forward to that.
Absolutely.
If you are looking for more C3 content beyond that, though, you can always sign up for our newsletter, too, at newsletter.charactercreationcast.com, because we will be putting those out at the beginning of the month. So beginning in July, I'll have a new one out for you.
Absolutely. And for these recast episodes, just because you might have heard an episode before, doesn't mean it won't be worthwhile to give it a listen, because you never know when some exciting news will drop on the show. And those cold opens and calls to action are going to be kind of like your first line of defense of learning about those sorts of things.
Line of defense, like you protect yourself against
ignorance.
Okay, that's a good call. That's a good call. Plus, I mean, honestly, you all love our banter. It's
exactly.
For now, if you like what you've heard on the episode and want to support what we do here on the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. We're putting new stuff weekly onto that feed. So there's other really good perks. You can give us a free trial at the $5 level. And if you decide to join on at that level or higher, you can also get some dice, thank you card, and our eternal appreciation, which really is worth more than all that other stuff combined, to be fair. We're having a little bit of trouble getting the initial batch of dice fulfilled because we have to find time to get together to do that. So we've got the dice. We just have to find time to get together.
Yes.
I am also behind on our thank you notes, which I know I said would be out. However, my beautiful, helpful puppy decided to eat the brand new washi tape that just came in the mail. So it has little tooth marks in it.
It was gorgeous.
It's really pretty washi tape. I just ordered the same roll again. So hopefully that will be here soon, and I will get cards out as soon as I get that and keep it away from the puppy this time. I'm so mad at her. Soon, I promise. More is on the way. In addition to all of that, though, you can get thanked on every episode in this call to action section, which we're going to do right now, starting with Lieutenant and DJG, aka Tigranosaurus. We are so glad to have you backing us.
We're glad to have you here as well, Shadim Cabal and Daryl Holiday II. Thanks for supporting.
The Shyest Barbarian and Benjamin Sweeney, thank you.
Lorcan McGinnis and Rob Fletcher, thanks for helping us make this show.
Kevin Brown and Tentacle Duck, thank you so much for supporting us.
Thank you to John Adamus and A3 Sketchpad. Your support brings us so much joy.
Thanks, Cole McCallum and Carlos Salazar. We are glad to have you with us.
Eric S. and Ross Kingston, thanks.
We are glad to have you, Ian Popmeyer and Grace Bergeron. Thank you for supporting us.
Sorry Goth and Liam G., thank you for your continued support.
Brian Colm and the Garden GM, our deepest thanks.
Dark Mirror and Tom, thanks for making this all possible.
We appreciate your support. Blue Kryptonite and Danny, thank you.
And Nicole Trainer and Liam Murray, thank you for your continued support as well.
And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support means so much to us and helps us make the show even better. The more support we end up getting, the more we can do with the show. And we've got ideas. It's going to be great. Again, you can join us at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and find out all the cool stuff we have going on.
If you are unable to support the show financially, there is a couple of ways you can help the show without spending a dime. And that's by talking to others about the show, either to your friends, to folks online. You could play it on your phone speaker in public. I'm sure that would go over well.
People love that, especially in the waiting room at a doctor's office. That would be a great time to do it.
That would be a great time. A lot of people would be able to listen. It'd be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You can also follow us on Twitter at CreationCast or join us on Discord at discord.charactercreationcast.com. And in addition to all of that, you could also leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook. Every review helps folks find the show, and we'll be able to read them out on the show right here in our call to action. But unfortunately, we do not have any reviews to read for today. So, you can get to that top of the pile, get it in there. And you'll be right at the top, and we'll read it as soon as we get that review in our email. So check it out.
Do it. That is it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us here and for listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves, everyone. Stay safe. Drink some water. Go outside, maybe, if that's your thing, or don't if it's not. And keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time. Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can be found on Twitter at CreationCast or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Amelia Antrim, and I can be found on Twitter at Ginger Reckoning, or on my other podcast, Garbage of the Five Rings. Our other host, Ryan Bolter, can be found on Twitter at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast it originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by the absolutely fantastic Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game system used in today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, extra outtakes, and much, much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.